And up.
They're like, well, that the whole week on.
Right. I'll start again next week.
Yeah.
July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to shed light on what depression and anxiety looks like for Black women. I have Jasmine Newson here with me, my fellow mental health advocate, and we're going to dive right into this conversation.
Let's go.
All right, awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about what high-functioning depression is? Because high-functioning depression is one of the most common forms of depression for Black women. So can you just explain what that is?
Yes. So I had never heard the phrase high functioning depression until I started going to therapy consistently. So I was probably in my second or third year being in therapy here, and I realized that high functioning means that it's like undetectable. Of course, a mental health professional will be able to hear some of those signs and be like, okay, that is definitely what's going on. But it's something that you might not be able to notice within yourself. So you'll be very self-critical, feeling a lot of guilt and shame, losing interest in things, and also just really have a lot of self-doubt and take a very small issue and make it huge in your life. And while those are things that we kind of do on an everyday basis sometimes, especially if that's something that you struggle with generally, what high functioning looks like is when you have a season of that. So when it's a season of that is when the mental health professional that you're talking to would be like, something is going on. And so when my psychiatrist and my therapist began to kind of bring those things out of me, I was like, no, what do you mean? Like, I'm fine. Like, I still get up and go to work. I still, see my family. I still maintain good relationships. And that's when she was like, that's actually the problem, is that though you're doing those things normally, and you don't even know that some of the things that you're saying gives me all the signs for depression. And because when depression is explained to us, it's usually on a commercial where somebody's saying, you need to go get this medicine. And usually it's somebody that's not Black. It's not a person of color that is on those commercials. Yeah. It's not people that are Black on those commercials. And so when you hear those symptoms, you think, oh, well, I still go to work. I didn't have to quit my job. I didn't have to take a day off. I don't think that I can have mental health days. And those are the things that privilege, I think, allows certain populations to be able to do that we're not able to do as a Black woman.
Take mental health day.
Yeah, that's not something that we even heard of until the last 2 or 3 years when mental health became a less taboo subject. It's still taboo, right, but it's just less taboo now. So yeah, she began to explain to me some of the things that I was experiencing, and I didn't see it until maybe 3 or 4 months later. So when you are high functioning, that means that one big thing can take you all the way down. And so when I had a death in the family, or when I was going through stuff with my job, those are the things that started to take me down. And that's when I started experiencing some of the things that she had already saw 3 or 4 months prior. And so when she said that to me, I was like, how many Black women are like that? How many Black women are actually functioning in depression and anxiety, and they don't know it? You feel those things, you're like, I just had a bad day.
Right.
But if you're consistently having those bad days, if you're consistently having issues being able to get through those things, if you're consistently seeing that I'm losing interest in stuff, I am very self-critical, I am so irritated with these things that I used to be able to handle, then you're probably going through high-functioning depression and anxiety.
That sounds dangerous.
It is dangerous. And a lot of mental health professionals will tell you that that's actually the most dangerous. And you are at a high risk because you haven't even been able to name those things in yourself. And I found it very weird that every single time I was named, oh, you have ADHD, oh, you have depression, I remember looking at them like, what? What do you mean? Like, how? Like, you hear those words and you hear those labels. For you have already in your mind already thought about what those things mean for your life. You've always thought that you were separate from us. There's no way I could be that. I got my life together. I smile, I do what I gotta do, I work, and when you look at those things, you automatically put a bad label to them. But when it's told to you, you have to make sure that you know, like, okay, I'm hearing those things, how can I get through this? Because the moment that she said all this, you were a high functioning depressed, I was like, okay, so what we gotta do? What do I need to do? And I thought it was something that I could change overnight. But when you realize that you are a high functioning depression, that means that it's probably been an underlying condition most of your life. And now you're in a season, because these are things I didn't know about growing up. I didn't realize that I had a lot going on mentally until I became an adult. And the pressure was on. So the pressure is on. When I was in grad school is when I figured out a lot of this stuff. The pressure was on.
Right.
You know, I was not in a normally pressured society. Like, normal pressure for all women. Cool, got it. But we're in these high-functioning spaces, these careers, these jobs, these relationships, and we're wondering, what's going on with me? I'm not exactly happy. And that's why you'll see a lot of people say, I had no idea that was going on with you. Or I didn't even know that I was depressed. Or I didn't know that she was depressed. I didn't know that he was depressed. And it's because we are able to kind of slide under the radar.
Mm-hmm. Is that because we have to?
I think so. I think it's because we have to, and I think that's because it's what we've been taught. Mm-hmm. No one has taught us to say that, hey, I've been really depressed lately. And when somebody says that, we say they're looking for attention. Like, the African American community and also the community of faith has not even told us what it looks like to be depressed. We don't even understand that Jesus was depressed in the Bible sometimes. That there was a lot of Bible characters in the Bible that were depressed. They didn't say those words explicitly, but if you read and understand, you'll be like, wow. So they were depressed. So this is something is not wrong with me. This is actually normal for me to feel this way. And that's one of the biggest things that I see in our community is we don't know how to say, this is what's going on with me. We hate to name things. Mm-hmm. We want to avoid, we want to escape, we want to cope the best way we can. We don't want to be on medication because that makes us crazy. That is literally the last thing we do. And when I was talking to my therapist about that, she was like, do you know how many white women say, hey, just give me what I need to get and I'll be okay? But how many black women be like, well, so what's the other options? Can I try a natural method? And the thing about natural methods, I don't think anything is wrong with that. Right. The natural methods do not directly go to the root of the issue. Because it's sometimes it's a chemical imbalance that you cannot help.
We have a hard time accepting that.
Yes, it's like, so something wrong with me? So I gotta have medication in order for this to work? And it's like they really have to make sure that they debunk the myths of medication when it comes to black people because of what it looks like.
So medication is obviously one option that we need to be more open to, but what are some other things we need to work on as a community to help with this issue?
Self-care. It's the main thing. And the thing about it is, self-care is not facials and pedicures and manicures. It's not. And I know it is a way of taking care of yourself. Don't get me wrong. You can do that and be like, I took care of myself today, and that's completely fine.
Good.
But the real self-care is, what is my routine in the mornings?
Yeah.
Do I wake up and automatically scroll through social media, whether it be Instagram, Twitter? Am I automatically going to my phone or my work email? What am I doing in the morning? How am I setting the stage or setting the tone for my day in my mornings? And like one of the biggest things that my therapist worked on me with was sleep hygiene. And having a routine, going to bed at a certain time and waking up at a certain time. And I know that sounds like basic level, and some people can do that naturally. But if you're anything like me and you're nocturnal, you're going to stay up. You are going to stay up. You're going to be up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to finish this. I got to do this. And I think there's a huge transition from college to adulthood. Because college, that was normal. You know, that was very normal to stay up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
What am I doing?
Yes, but when you become an adult, when I was a teacher, I had to get up.
Yeah.
I had to be up at like 6 o'clock in order to make sure that I'm there for first period. So for me, it took me a while to transition out of that. And I also had to realize that's just who I am.
Being up at night?
Yeah, I'm a person that likes to stay up at night. I like to think about things at night. I like to go through all these things. But if I don't get a good night's sleep, if I'm functioning off of 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and I'm wondering why my days are the way they are and how they drag along and how I'm always tired, and that's another sign too, fatigue.
Yeah.
Are you always saying, I'm so tired, I'm always so tired? And it's because I believe that a lot of us have our minds working in overdrive, and we never give ourselves time to rest.
I think I use that word as an alternation to depression. Like
Yeah.
If I'm depressed, I would say I'm tired.
Yeah.
Instead of.
Yeah.
The alternative to depression was tired. It was a safer word to say.
Yeah, because it's like when you say I'm depressed, how many of your friends know how to handle you saying that? How many of your family members know how to hear that and be able to support you in that? Because a lot of us have never been trained to be able to support somebody that is depressed.
Yeah. We
hear that word and we're like, oh my God, like I don't know what to do. Like, you all right? You're going to be crying all the time? Because the thing about it is, the moment that I started telling my friends and naming, you guys, like, I was really depressed in that season. They were looking at me like, what? Like, I didn't know that. Because they expect you to be crying every single day in their face. When high functioning means that I'm not crying every day.
Especially not around people.
Yes, that's because one of the biggest things we've been taught as African American women is to always have a certain image about yourself. Our moms taught us you need to have your hair done, you need to have your nails done, you need to make sure you're presentable. Don't embarrass me, and also make sure that whenever you come in front of people that you put on a good enough face that no one can be able to see what's going on inside of you. So honestly, high functioning comes from the way that we were raised, and I think it honestly goes all the way back to slavery.
Yeah. Elaborate on that a little bit.
So epigenetics means that if you have trauma in your DNA, you're predisposed to certain things regardless.
Heard of that, okay.
And I think that when I look at all the slavery movies, and mind you, some of them are not completely accurate depictions, but they try to get as close as they can to it. When you see certain things happen, like when I was watching Birth of a Nation and he went through something with his wife, he had to ask his master, can I go see her? And his master told him, make sure you're back in the morning. So there was this huge traumatic thing that happened, but you got to go back to work in the morning. So if that mindset happened in slavery, then those things are still perpetuating to this day. Yeah. I got to keep going. I got to go to work. I got to pay my bills. I got to make sure that, I survive, but the thing is, we no longer just have to survive as African Americans. We can thrive, we really can. And we can thrive by making sure that we notice things like high functioning depression. That when we see that and we hear that, we don't get scared of those labels. We say, okay, now that I know better, I can do better.
Right.
What in my life can I change around? What in my life can I move? What boundaries can I set up? What can I tell myself every morning that I need to hear? Who do I need to be talking to outside of my friends and family about things that are going in my life that could really help me? And so I think that's the way that we can transition and change into really being better mentally. We really can. And when you're better mentally, guess what? You're probably going to be better physically. So I think it just all works together. Yeah, it's definitely a cycle.
Okay, so those are good things. Our takeaways are we need to make sure that we're open to medications if that's what your doctors are telling you, and then also make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, right?
Care. Listen, take care, y'all. Seriously.
Which is hard to say sometimes. We understand it takes energy, and you already don't have that. But just do your best. Just do your best with what you have. Start small, whatever it is. Especially you were talking about routines in the morning.
Y'all, routine is a game changer.
Right.
Getting up an hour earlier than you're supposed to, and I know it's like, ooh, I'm barely able to make it now. But if you have that routine, as if you know what you do in the morning and you have a nightly routine, your body will automatically say it's time to go to bed. That's why a lot of people say that you're not supposed to be like watching TV that much in the same place that you're sleeping.
I've heard that.
You're supposed to like separate those things because your mind has already told you, well, I do everything in this bed, so I don't really have to like move or transition. But because of that, that's probably why you can't sleep at night. That's probably why you're struggling waking up. Like, you sit in your bed for like 30, 45 minutes when you could be getting up, exercising, reading your Bible, journaling, meditating, do whatever it is that you need to do to set that tone in the morning. And it's hard because the thing is, we know these things, but do we do them every morning?
Right.
You might not, you know?
That makes sense.
It's like, I know that this sets the tone for my life and the way that my day is going, but sometimes I forget. And the thing is...
Or habits. Yeah. It's about building the habits.
Yes. You have to make sure that you build those things. Okay, I didn't do it yesterday, but I'm going to make sure that I do it today because when I do this, I feel better. So I need to make sure I continue to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like you said, if they don't do it one day, then
they're like, well, that the whole week on.
Right. I'll start again next week.
Yeah, like, okay, well, I guess it's over now. And it's like, don't do that. And that's a part of high functioning is self-critical.
Yeah.
You're being a cynic about what it is that you're doing. So you have to have grace with yourself and say, I'm struggling with this thing. I'm struggling in this season. In order for me to go this natural way, or even when you're on medication, you're actually supposed to have a routine. When are you taking that medication? Right. Like, how does it make you feel? Do you need to make sure you have a whole bunch of water before you drink? Because I was on medication before and I needed to make sure that I drank water a whole lot because my head was going to hurt if I didn't. And so routine is important whether you're getting on medication or not. But if you really want to go the natural way, routine, boundaries, self-care is a priority no matter what happens. Because the thing about us is we can do something for a few weeks. But the moment something knocks us off, we say, well, I'm done. I couldn't get to that I had to wake up earlier for work this week, so I'm not going to get to that.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that it's a priority, no matter what's happening in your life, because your mental health depends on your self-care being a priority.
Absolutely. Yeah, we as a community have trouble with putting ourselves first.
Yeah.
And I think I saw actually on Red Table Talk, Jada talking about that with her family and how she can't be like, Willow, you're my everything. Like, you have to put yourself first in order to take care of the people around you.
Yeah, and that's something that Black women have a hard time doing, which is why we go under the radar. Yeah. It's undetectable because it is ingrained in us to be a certain type of way. And it's crazy because I didn't know that things were ingrained in me until I got into therapy, and it was time for me to like listen, like, oh, okay, so that's not right. So that's not healthy. So I'm not supposed to do that. These are things we don't know because we don't talk about it. Mental health is such a taboo in our community that we have to have conversations like this and let people know and bring awareness to it, because these are things that people are not teaching us. We don't know. You know how many people are suffering in silence, especially during this quarantine.
Right.
Suffering in silence. Knew that, okay, I have had some depressive thoughts. I have had a season before. But you sitting still with all that, that's a lot.
It's all going to come forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's time that we start taking that seriously and saying, you know, in order for me to get to where I need to get to, because we're all thinking about, I got to fulfill my purpose. I got to, get to the bag, I got to secure the bag. How effectively can you do those things if your mental health is dwindling? Is not healthy. If you don't have adequate mental hygiene, how can you get to those things adequately? And then you get there, right? So say for instance, you don't care about your mental health, you get there. You get there and you crash and you burn. Right. Because you are not sustained for what you just worked so hard to get towards. So why not start sustaining as you're building? I think that works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, crash and burn, definitely a result of all that. I agree. I agree, absolutely.
And we up in here, you know?
Right, exactly. That's why I'm like, crash, burn right in there.
You be like, whoa, I'm ready to get here. And I'm here and I'm like, whoa, I can't do this because I did not have a good, adequate mental hygiene when I first started. So how can I have one when I get to the top that I so desperately want to get to?
What did your crash and burn look like? And then, like, how did you, like, obviously therapy, but, how do you avoid that from now?
I think my crash and burn was very different than what it looks like for most people. So there wasn't like this, I got to this top. It was when I didn't have the titles. I was no longer a teacher. I was no longer a grad student. I was just Jasmine, just figuring it out. That is my crash and burn. And my crash and burn came when I sat still enough. And I said, something's wrong. Something isn't right. And I need to make sure that I get a therapist in this season. Because I had one in St. Louis, but when I moved back to Atlanta, I didn't have one. But the moment I start feeling those things, I say, okay, because I've been here before, because I've seen this before, let me go ahead and get a therapist. And it just can't be therapy. Because, let's be honest, your therapist can only help you as much as you tell them. So we missed some stuff of telling them, like, okay, like, I ain't tell her that because I ain't really want to just, if you don't tell her everything.
That meme. Like, trying to tell my therapist enough without them.
Them saying like, all right, we have to call the people.
Not too much.
Yeah, that's a real thing. We're so afraid about that. But we have to make sure that we're honest. So crash and burn for me looked like when I finally sat still and I felt everything that I was probably supposed to be feeling for years. This is stuff from like childhood up until college. I was like, wait,
we have to stop that.
Yeah,
that's too much.
Yeah, because you're uncovering and like cutting back the layers of so many years. And when it's time for you to start saying, okay, I'm aware of this, it's time to change, you've been who you were longer than where you're trying to go and who you're trying to become. And so you're going to be a little hard on yourself in that season if you wait so long that every single time something happens, you got to avoid it and act like, I'm good, I don't care. I'm good, I don't care. Like, we don't grieve seasons. We don't grieve the way that we're supposed to. We think in our mind, well, that ain't that serious. If it's serious to you, take some time to deal with it.
Yeah.
Grieving is such a thing, such a foreign concept. It's like, why are you randomly crying in your car? It's because you didn't release some stuff that you're supposed to be releasing.
And it's not always a death.
It's not. It doesn't have to be a death. It could be a death of a season. Like, you know, like I said, I crashed and burned when all those titles kind of went away from my life, because I had to grieve that season. I am no longer that teacher. I am no longer that. Those things are a part of me and made me who I am, but I am no longer that. And now I have to find myself in this new space. So I think it's important that you go to therapy, but you start naming those things to yourself. It hurt me when this happened.
Yeah.
I did not like when that happened. When I was a child, people never really let me talk. So from that, I said, okay, my voice is not important. These are things that self-doubt and self-criticism and cynicism, all that stuff doesn't come from nowhere.
Yeah.
It's a root.
Years and years.
It's a root.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can read self-help books all you want to. You can go to conferences. You can even go to therapy. But if you don't take the initiative to say something in me has to change, my perspective, sometimes all you have is control of your perspective. That's all you got. I could choose to say that this is my end all be all and that everything in my past sucks. And because my past sucks, my future is going to suck. Or you can say, I can change my perspective and start speaking over my life and saying that this is what I'm going to be. And this is how I'm going to live my life. And this is the life that I want to create. It's a choice. It really is a choice. And sometimes there is a chemical imbalance and it's past a choice and you need more help with that. And that's fine. We got to normalize being able to take medicine.
We got to be open to all
for a season. You don't got to do it for the rest of your life. But if a mental health professional continues to push that for you, and you know that and they're telling you all the benefits of it, try it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, cool. You don't got to do that. Go naturally. But we got to make sure that we make good choices. We make good choices and we change that perspective, because I think that's a game changer right there.
Yeah, definitely. Breaking those habits, or not habits, but you know, those things we think about medication.
Yeah.
And just also the cycle with you saying years and years of bottling things up.
I never said nothing because I didn't know how to express my emotions. We got to break
White people have their children in therapy.
12 years old. I have friends that say, I've been in therapy since I was 12. Yeah, I've had anxiety. Why are we just figuring out as adults that we have anxiety and depression? Why?
Because we need to be getting our children into therapy as well. It's not just for adults. Therapy is for all ages.
And having real conversations with people, not just how are you, because they're going to tell you good.
Yeah.
Good, you.
Yeah.
Question mark.
It's easy.
It's easy to say that, but I think we got to start saying, how are you? This is what I started doing. How are you really doing?
Yeah.
That was one question I started asking. Another question me and my friends start asking each other is, how's your heart today? Because you can generally be okay. That's why it's so easy for us to lie when people say, how are we doing? Because I'm fine because I'm functioning. But how's your heart? Did you work through some of this stuff? And if you see or feel that something's off with your friend, 9 times out of 10, you're right. Hey, I just wanted to check in with you. I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Hey, can I put eyes on you? Let's go somewhere. And I know we in quarantine. Go do a little picnic. I done been at Piedmont so much just to ask you, because I'm like, I want to make it work. Make it work. And I know this season is definitely different, but make it work in this season. Like, reach out to people, talk to people, check on them, because you don't want to have a feeling about somebody and then something ends up happening and you never reached out because you're like, well, they don't really care to hear from me, or I don't got time to do that. Reach out to people. Yeah. Every single time I've had a feeling that it's been confirmed. Okay, yep, this is what's going on. And it's like, I really need to hear from you. I really need to hear from somebody. I just needed somebody to say, how are you doing? And to check on me, because I've been checking on everybody else. And so we got to make sure that we do those things because it's important. Our community, our support system is important in us really being able to like fight against depression, anxiety, all the things that we can go through.
Yeah. It's not, we don't need that. We got enough going on.
Yeah,
we don't need this.
We don't need nothing else, okay?
Right. Like, we can do this.
Yeah.
Just with checking in with each other, we can help each other with this.
And it's okay to tell your friend, I think that therapy, you would benefit from therapy. I have told every single one of my friends, and some of them have looked at me and been a little offended when I said that. But I realized that my area of expertise, while I knew and I had language on some of those things, I knew that I couldn't get them to a certain place, that they would have to go to therapy in order to get to another place.
Right.
When people say, well, how did you figure out your purpose? How did you get through this? How did you get through that? Therapy.
Right.
Therapy, God, me taking care of myself, me prioritizing self-care. It's a whole regimen.
Right.
That I think we have to make sure that we get into that. There is no one fix-it-all thing that you can do to heal yourself from this. It is a regimen, a consistent one that has to be important to you enough for you to do it.
So with friends coming to you constantly, that's also not healthy for you to try to be their counselor or their therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good that you're referring them to a therapist.
Yeah, and it's okay to say that this is not. I'm not well versed in this area. Mm-hmm. You need to talk to somebody else, because one of the biggest things when you talk to your friends or your family is they are biased to you.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I know. You get through everything.
Yeah.
You get through everything. You'll be fine. You'll be all right. Just pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do what you got to do.
One of the worst things you can say to someone.
Like, literally, don't ever say that. Like, don't.
If there's one thing.
Don't ever say that. But yeah, when you get to a point where you say, this is too much for me, because, especially if you're an empath, which most women are. Mm-hmm. Most people are an empath. They care about what people are going through. Mm-hmm. The thing about when you become that person for everybody, the strong friend, or the one that everybody comes to, because you even may be smart or well versed in certain areas, so people are like, well, I'm gonna go to her about my mental health because I feel like she talks about that. And I think when you're an advocate and they know that, they're like, okay, well, the thing about it is they load off on you, leave you with their load, and sometimes they're free because they just gave it to you. And so you have to get to a point where you say no, like, you have to have a boundary. No, I can't take that today. And also, before you load off, my friend asked me on Monday, and I was having a really rough day on Monday. She said, well, what's going on? And I said, do you have the capacity to listen for what I have? Because I don't know I don't know if you're heavy, if you're so heavy that my one thing could tip the scale.
Yeah.
And she said, whoa, like, thank you for asking that. Like, I'm fine. You can tell me. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, here it is.
We need to make that a habit as well.
That needs to be normal.
Because that can be a lot for people.
I
got my own stuff.
Yes, I had a friend that called me and said, hey, I know a lot of people load off on you. I don't want to do that. But I just want to talk to you. I just want to have a conversation, because when I talk to you, it helps me. It makes me feel better. So I ain't going to tell you what's going on, because I don't feel like doing that. And I said, well, what's going on? She was like, no, I don't want to talk about that. I just want to laugh and talk, because your spirit, your energy helps me. And I said, you know what? Like, we gotta normalize this type of way that we have conversations and talk to people. Sometimes it's hard. Okay. It's not something that you automatically think about. You going through something, you say, okay, like, I'm gonna reach out to this person. This is my person that I load off onto. Yeah, like this, and that's okay. But you gotta start asking, like, hey, do you have the capacity to hold what I'm gonna say?
Right.
Because sometimes they won't. And I've even had friends, I don't even know if this is heavy for you, but I have to tell somebody. And when you preface a conversation like that, it helps people prepare.
Warning.
It's like, okay, trigger warning, thanks.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
So I think that has to be something that we normalize as well. And setting those boundaries. Yeah. Telling your friends, hey, I'll always be there for you. I've walked you through a lot of things, but like in this season, I'm going through this. So before you load, I would love for you to be able to say this to me, like, before you say anything. Mm-hmm. And, like, the thing about it, we're having these conversations so normally now that I think we second guess. We're like, okay, well, let me ask this before I even load off. Right. And I think that's important. I think we definitely have to say that.
Okay. Well, let's close off with, if you had a friend who you saw the warning signs of depression, what are you going to say to them? What is the right thing to say to them? And what resources are you going to point them toward?
So I think I would tell them, I went through a similar season. I may not have walked through the specific things that you have walked through, but I've been through a similar season. How can I support you in this season? I think that therapy will help a lot. And, if they're a black woman, I say therapy for black girls. If they're a black man, I say therapy for black men. Mm-hmm. If they have insurance, I say go through your insurance and ask for a therapist that looks like you. If they don't have insurance and they're still kind of like paying out of pocket, they can go to a psychological center at a university, and they would tier the pay for that. So there was at one point when I was in school, I had to pay like $10 a session, $15 a session or something like that. So there's ways to do it. And right now during the quarantine, there are a lot of people offering their services pro bono because they know that people are struggling. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely say preface with like, I've experienced some of the things, I've experienced a similar season Because we gotta be careful and not say like, I've been through what you've been through, girl. And it's like, no, we all different. We all handle things differently. So you can say, I've been through a similar season, and this is how I was able to get through it. Mm-hmm. And let me know how I can support you in this season. And what I realize is when you ask somebody that, let me know how I can support you in this season, they're often like, what? Because nobody has said that.
Yeah.
And then most likely they'll say, oh, okay, like I really need support in this area. Could you text me I had a friend that needed to pass a test. Could you like make sure that I'm studying? Could you just check in about that? And she has kids, and I said, do you need me to come watch the kids while you study? I'll like keep you, like people are not used to being supported that way. So when you show up in that way for somebody, I think it means a lot. So if I was to have a friend like that, which I've had friends come to me, I tell them like, this is I went through something similar. I think you should go to therapy. I think therapy is something that you should consider. If you don't want to go that route, I definitely suggest, just prioritizing your mental health. But I think you'll always get to a point where it would be a benefit for you to talk to somebody unbiased to you. And I'm not unbiased. I love you.
Right.
So I'm gonna always just tell you all the little cute things that you're supposed to, do. And I have the language sometimes to be able to help, but I can't professionally help you. Mm-hmm. So I can't do that. And I want to push you to who can help you the most. I can only help you a little bit for a little season. You'll be okay for 2 weeks with me. And then,
that's all I got.
After the 2 weeks, you're gonna come back, and then I might be, busy or, so it's important to definitely seek therapy. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll have to provide a resource for you for therapy. We'll make sure the links to all the ones she mentioned are below. And just thank you.
Of course.
I think this was good. I think it's going to be helpful.
Yes.
Imagine a world where we're all doing the things you just mentioned.
Man, I'm telling you, a world like that, we will have a lot of happier people. Mm-hmm. And not just happy, because happiness is definitely circumstantial, but like joyful people.
That's it. People
that are like actually creating and living the lives that they were supposed to. Mm. You can get closer to your purpose when you take care of your mental health, Like there's so many things that you can get closer to. You can get closer to yourself, to the people around you. Like it's imperative because I think everything flows from our mind. Yeah. And that's why it's important to take care of it. So, y'all, definitely take care of your mental health. Yes.
Yep, definitely. All right, remember, Black Minds Matter.
Yes, you see it.
So, do what you got to do. We'll be here.
Yes.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.